Thank you all so much for being here today. I want to acknowledge that my colleague, Councilwoman Raina Park Shaw, is here with me today too. She, along with many of my peers, my friends on City Council, have been important in this true game changer that we have. I said this a little bit yesterday, but now we got time, so let me just say a little bit more. More than a year ago, this upstart group, KC Tenants, came and started talking to me, and they said that we're going to change what the conversation on housing is. And I'll tell you this to their credit, they pushed me too, because there are a whole bunch of people who said, we can do this, but we're not sure if we can do that. We can make a few modest steps, but we're not sure if we can change what the whole conversation is. And there were folks that said, we don't care if there are 500 years of landlord-tenant law that we need to address. We don't care if there are power dynamics. We don't care if there are voting blocks, anything like that. We're going to make a difference, and we're going to make housing a priority. And they made housing a priority in Kansas City for the last year. They made housing a priority on the campaign trail. They made housing a priority in the mayor's office. They made housing a priority my first night in office. And they've made housing a priority every single day that we have been in office. And we're talking about housing today, but this is just one part of caring about poor people in our city, poor people in our country. And I know sometimes people get on me for using that phrase, but I say it from my heart, because there are a lot of people who are waking up every day in Kansas City. They're trying to get by, but they know struggle. And the steps that we took yesterday and the steps that we're going to keep taking make a key difference in removing barriers for people to pick up and be able to build up their own lives, removing barriers for people who just want respect, removing barriers for people who want dignity, removing barriers for people who want to be heard. And so I'm just lucky to know y'all. And I'm proud to have gotten to know this group, to work with this group. You know, I went to law school and a whole bunch of stuff, and I know some of y'all didn't, but y'all were knowing the law a lot better than half the people I bump into all the time real quick. And so I'm proud. But more than being proud, I want to say that this feels like just a beginning step. And I know we've done a lot, but we got a lot more to do, because we need to make sure that we get adequate funding and resources for everything that we've talked about. Affordable housing creation, preservation, making sure that we have money to support folks who are out there every day trying to get access to legal counsel, folks who are trying to make sure they get access to rental assistance. Those are steps that we still care about, and that's what we're not giving up on. My administration has been committed to this from day one. It will continue to, because I care about creation of affordable housing units, quality housing for every Kansas City, all of our renters, and making sure that we preserve opportunities for people. So with that, I'm going to make sure I let a chance for a lot of people who led this to really do a lot of the talking. I want to make sure I also thank so many on my staff, our city council, and so many others that have been vital in this. And let's keep doing more work ahead. I'm just proud of y'all. So whoever wants to start talking, go right ahead.
Hi.
Your name, please.
My name is Tiana Caldwell, and I am a Tiana Caldwell, Caldwell.
Thank you.
I am a leader with KC Tenants. Exactly a year ago, I was homeless. My family and I had been evicted, then displaced again. I had ovarian cancer and received treatments while living on couches and in hotels. Being homeless was expensive. It cost my family $300 to $500 a week. It cost us time and money. We were late to things because we didn't have a place to charge our phones. My husband and I struggled at work because of the chaos in our lives. The worst impact was on my son, AJ. My baby is 12. He went through a lot. He kept a smile on his face, but he had to grow up last year. AJ had to be strong for us. My baby should not have to do that. KC Tenants began organizing this year. I was at the first meeting on February 17th in a union hall on Paseo with 12 people. I didn't know then that KC Tenants would change my life, that KC Tenants would become my family. That day we said we'd had enough. We were going to take back our city. If big downtown developers were worth hundreds of millions, then we were worth more. Since we formed, KC Tenants made housing a key issue in the city election, and we built power across race, class, gender, and all other other lines that they use to divide us. We have taken our struggle to the streets. We have stood in radical solidarity with each other and our siblings in the movement. We presented to Congress and shaped presidential housing platforms. And we got the mayor on record saying that he wants his legacy to be housing, not an airport, not a streetcar, housing. Thank you, Mayor Lucas. And thank you to our champions and city council. You have listened to us. You have passed our Tenants Bill of Rights package by and for the people. Today, we celebrate, but tomorrow, we organize.
I'm James. I'm a leader with KC Tenants.
James.
Owens.
Thank you.
Today it all comes to fruition. It all becomes worth it. The months of hard work, the long hours of meetings and debate, the sacrifices made by not only our strategy team, but the members in our base and the allies that stood in solidarity with us for many events, for door knockings, for forums, other events, for rallies where we were screaming to make our voices heard, trying to convince the powers to be that our cause is just, our cause is necessary, and by God, our cause is due. This victory was won by Kansas Citians for Kansas Citians. This package does not only bring meaningful change to the city for now, it's also a symbol. It represents what civic-minded citizens can achieve when they just decide that they've had enough. When they stand up and say, no more the status quo. It's time for change. And no one can do it better than the ones that's closest to the problem.
That's right.
I cannot express my appreciation for Mayor Lucas for sponsoring the package and his support and counsel along this long road. I would also like to thank our major supporters and champions, Brandon Ellington, Ms. Raina Park-Shaw, and Eric Bunch, for their steadfast leadership and counsel through this long process. Ms. Jane Brown, without whose help and expertise in housing law would not have made this possible. And the rest of the council members who saw that the time for change was now and had the courage to lay the groundwork to make that possible. This is for my kids, Cage and Chloe. This is for all of my comrades here today. This is for their kids. This is so that in 20 years, none of our children have to struggle anymore. Thank you.
Maya Neal, M-A-Y-A-N-E-A-L. Hi, my name is Maya Neal, and I am a leader and organizer with KC Tenants. I have been displaced, harassed, and I have lived in horrible conditions. My mental and physical health has suffered. But today, I feel powerful. I am transformed by knowing the power of the collective. KC Tenants organizes with the simple and righteous belief that every person in Kansas City deserves safe, healthy, accessible, and truly affordable housing. So for the last 6 months, we have been developing our Tenant Bill of Rights. We've practiced something we like to call group genius. Our strategy team met for up to sometimes 10 hours a day, working with the city's best lawyers to scheme and dream. Every component of our Bill of Rights package is connected to a tenant in our base, someone who has been impacted by the housing crisis. We are not just here to win good policy. We are also here to revolutionize how policy is made, with the people most impacted at the center every step of the way. So today we signed a Tenant Bill of Rights that we wrote. It includes a resolution that will help us and all of the tenants in this city understand our rights. It also includes an ordinance that, when funded, will provide real resources and recourse for tenants for the first time in our city's history. We have an expanded slate of rights and the means to protect them. We cannot leave today without noting that some of our proposals, however, did not make the final package. We will be back. We will be back to protect our siblings who receive housing assistance. We will be back to fight for right to counsel. We will be back, of course, to increase the supply of truly, deeply, permanently affordable homes in Kansas City. Kansas City, KC Tenants is not going anywhere. Welcome to the people-powered revolution.
My name is Gaddafi, Qadhafi, aka James Shelby, Shelby. I am a leader and on the strategy team for KC Tenants. I got out of prison after serving 22 years. I got out in August. Sometime in August, a friend of mine who's also a member of KC Tenants, Brianna somebody, she invited me here and said that I may like it, and I came to one of their meetings, and I've been coming back ever since. If it wasn't for these people behind me and all the rest that's involved, I would likely be back in prison. I became homeless the day after I got out of prison. I've been homeless ever since. They more or less rescued me from myself, because it's hard out there and it's easy to revert back into that old residual self-image and go for what you think you know. They got my back, they had my back, and they invited me, a person on the bottom of the totem pole, to come to the round table and sit down and be somebody. I didn't have to be perfect. They thought I was worth it. And because of that, I'm indubitably grateful to them, what they stand for, and I'm ready to get busy forever, ever, because this is what human rights is about. They let me have a little bit of my dignity back, and I don't have to beg and crawl and do a certain dance just to fit in, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
I'm going to say two quick things, then we'll sign, right? One is this. It is very easy in the business I'm in to get cynical about things, but I heard things from two different women about the last week. The first was a woman who stopped me at an event, and she said, hey, Mayor Lucas, I'm having trouble with my landlord, and there's this, that, and the other going on, and I'm about to call KC Tenants. And that's amazing. Y'all, in less than a year, are a faster call than 311 and everything else. So be ready to keep making that difference. And then the other woman I heard from the other day, and when I hear y'all's stories, it just makes me think about my own life, but my mother talked to me. And she was talking about raising her kids, dealing with challenges, dealing with issues, and having nobody to call, nobody to help you out. And how much of a difference it makes just knowing that there is someone, something that's there. And I know there's some people in the world who might be watching who don't get that, but that's a lot, knowing that there's somebody out there for you. And that's why we're excited to be here. I'm going to sign this, and then I think we may come back for questions for you. All right? Let's come all around. Let's be real close.
KC Tenants ain't no joke. KC Tenants ain't no joke. KC Tenants ain't no joke.
You're right. All right, I got my people right here. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Okay, all done. All right.
This is what it is. This is what it's about. It's worth it.
Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Yeah.
All right. So everybody who spoke, y'all have to answer questions too with me if you want to. Are there any questions?
Mayor, as you said, and some of these people said, there's a lot more work to be done. Where's the money gonna come from for this?
Money comes from making sure that we're adequately funding housing priorities once and for all. I think it's fair to say as city government, we haven't always done that. There are a few key areas I already see, and we've talked about this before, where funding can come from and be better spent. Our community development block grant each year needs to make sure that it's looking to invest not just in projects, but truly in people. That's one key area of affordable housing funding. I think when you look at Central City Economic Development sales tax funds, we need to make sure, again, when we're thinking about the projects at issue, we need to look at how are we creating more units, more safe, quality, affordable units. If there's a critique, and one I've been sensitive to recently, it's this. We often let developers drive the agenda, both large scale and small scale. More of what we need to do, particularly in how we do all of our economic development policy, incentives, cash outlays, et cetera, is how are we actually fulfilling goals each year? How are we adding more quality units? How are we funding rental assistance? And those are the sorts of things, and the battles, frankly, Mike, that I think we probably will have over the months ahead, and we'll probably have them over the years ahead, but it's important for us to have this sea change. We have not seen anything like this. And I'll just say this, I'm gonna give y'all credit for more than you think, right? We don't get to this position with free buses without the effort of this group. We don't get to the position that we're talking about positive treatment of marijuana offenders without a group like this. Because I think what you have seen is a sea change in how Kansas City sees its politics. Being mayor is not about what few projects you get done. Being mayor isn't just your legacy is this road or that road or this thing or that thing. It's about how can we actually use the tools of local government, which we're seeing around our country, to create positive social change. And whether it be public safety, whether it be housing, transit, jobs, anything under the sun, this is just one step of it. So I think it is reorienting what our budget priorities are, but I frankly think we do have enough money coming in right now. It's us having the battles to see how it's being better spent.
So what shifts in funding?
What shifts in funding for me, I think if I look through, for example, your $8 million CDB budget from last year, I would say that instead of some of the same old programmatic funds that we're looking to repeatedly, how do we make sure that there's actually that return on investment we're getting from them? I might also look to, and this is a conversation we'll have with our friends at the county, looking at where are we using other funds that right now have not been spent in as efficient a manner. So I would actually think, let's look at Central City Economic Development sales tax. You saw a significant conversation. My colleague Councilman Park Shaw is here, a number of others who said we want to look at and get in and see how we can better spend and utilize those funds each year to make sure we're getting real productivity to the folks who are here around it. There's another TIF, actually, the Heart of the City TIF, that's along Troost Avenue right now, that we're using to fix up storefronts. Interesting idea, but perhaps we can use that to actually look to address more core housing issues. Frankly, I think all of those things are on the table, and that's what's important for us. What we're not going to let happen, Mike, is for people to say that, well, it's too hard to find the money, we don't know how to do it. Because every year we find tens of millions of dollars to build roads, we find tens of millions of dollars to address any number of issues. I think it's important for us to realize that people are going to be a core priority in it. And I think it's just a sea change in how we think about it.
Mayor, would you kind of echo what Mayor James told me once, that there will always be critics? There will always be people who stand in opposition to anything.
Yeah.
Would you speak to those people who maybe are viewing this right now saying this was not the way they wanted? They didn't want to see this sign today.
Yeah, there will be critics to everything. I think here's the deal. Kansas City is a place that cares about people. And we have no shame in that. And we have no shame in spreading that message far and wide. And so for me, I would much rather be a mayor of a city where we care about how people can get to work, where we care about how people live, where we care about people having access to good quality housing that's affordable and truly affordable. And so I would say to somebody who isn't interested in that, there are hundreds of municipalities all around us. And while I would love for them to be here, if you don't want to be in a city that cares about its people, then there are other choices you can make.
Is that love it or leave it, sir? Roll.
Is it love it or leave it? Mike, I think the statement spoke for itself, which is to say we're going to continue to have a city that cares about people. In the same way that we care about a city beautiful movement with parks and boulevards, in the same way we care about all types of sporting events. I mean, right, we invest in a lot of stuff. Why is it controversial? Let me just do this for everybody real quick. This is where I get controversial. That's why you came. All right? Remember that day we were all excited because we got the NFL draft? Right? Now, you probably did ask, how are we going to pay for that? But nobody was running around town really saying, oh, we can't have it because we ain't got the money. Where are we going to get that money for that? No, we said we'd figure out a way to do it. What we're saying right now, all of us, is we're going to figure out a way to do it. And that's what we're proud of right now. And so,
But Mayor, you also said if they don't like it, there are lots of other places around.
yes, there are. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. Every now and then I run into people who don't want to be on sewer systems and don't want to be in a city with anyone near them within 2 miles. That's just a reality. For me, it is a core of being in Kansas City that we care about renters, frankly, that we care about everybody. And so for me, right, I love being in a city that in the last, 2-3 weeks has declared that we're going to stand up for tenants' rights, that's declared that we're going to stand up for rights to people to get access to quality transportation, free. And frankly, I have no shame in saying that. So you can paraphrase it however you want. What I'm going to say is, we care about folks. And we care about folks in every part of the city, and we're going to make sure they have access to safe, quality, affordable housing, and this is just one step up. Any other questions for you? All right. I should stop, but I will just, I'm just going to say see and none. I'll say this. To anybody who has been a critic, to anybody who has questions, think back to how much work this group did. This is not just somebody who showed up one day and they said, we're just going to get this done. Not one of them gave $1 to anybody running for office. Not a single dollar. You know, they're not taking people out to lunch. They're not trying to influence through that. They come to City Hall and they talk to us and they meet with us. And they met with anybody who would meet with them. And they worked hard. And they worked hard with groups that were opposed, right? They worked hard with groups that opposed at the beginning, that stayed opposed, but said, look, we're going to work with you. We're going to compromise. And frankly, this should be a model of government anywhere. So what I might say to the critic you're asking about is to say, show me a group that day in, day out has had people who have their own lives to worry about, but are giving hours of their lives to lobby, to advocate, to work with each other, to make collective decisions. This was new for me. Right? I couldn't just call one person and say, all right, yeah, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what we're going to do. We always, to the extent that when we were meeting, it was always a group. And this is something I'm proud of. This is collaboration. And no matter what issue it is in Kansas City, frankly, this is how we should address it more often. Always with a fundamental question of, is it good for the people? And that's what we need to always be able to answer. Thank you all so very much.